grounded, he will.
It's the Skinny on Sports Podcast with Aaron Gowk.
I throw balls far. You want good words? Data language.
Talk real sports with a real man.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
And now, here's the be-all, end-all, know-it-all of high school, college, and pro sports. Aaron Skinny Gowk with the Skinny on Sports.
We're talking about practice, man. I'm the MVP.
Good Thursday morning out there, Western Oklahoma. Welcome to the Skinny on Sports right here on 98.1 FM, the Sports Animal. Glad to have you along for the next hour. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about. How about a little NBA? We haven't talked a ton of Thunder. 8 games in, Thunder 5-3 with a win last night, second straight win over Cleveland. Where are the Thunder in their progression? Do we think there's a logjam of young players? And if we think that, who has to leave? And maybe when do they have to go? As far as trading away one of the young pieces that the Thunder's built, or maybe not. Maybe this all gets figured out. I think there's one person on the Thunder who has been affected by Chet Holmgren's integration into the team more than any other. I think it's obvious who's being bothered the most trying to find their role. So what is that role? Is it somewhere else, or is it maybe off the bench? We'll just kind of talk about how the Thunder go. And then did you see the ESPN list of the best 25 players in the league under 25?
I did not.
Shocking.
Did not.
Shocking. Top 3.
Well, I will hold off and not look at that. I'll let you shock me.
On who the top 3 are. I cannot believe it. I can't believe that one guy that was at number 1. I can't believe it. So we're talking about that. College football, in-state games this week, elimination game in Norman. As far as the Big 12 title game race, how big a letdown spot is this for Oklahoma State? And how good is UCF? When we get into November, we talked about this yesterday with 5 undefeated teams. Normally you don't have 5 this late in the year, which means somebody is getting upset on Saturday. Somebody that you don't expect. Not the ranked games. I'm talking about somebody that's playing a team that you would not expect to beat them. It's going to happen. Who, in your mind, is going to suffer the upset coming up on Saturday? And then we kind of barely dipped our toe in the waters of scenarios for the playoff. I've got a few written down. And there's one that we haven't really talked about yet, but with all the mudslinging that's going on up north.
Boy, howdy, that's been getting fun.
I mean, what happens if the Big Ten just quits playing? You know what? Everybody was cheaters. We're just done. What happens then? And then I want you to paint me a picture, Jared, and the listeners can do the same thing. Paint me a picture to where a 2-loss team gets in the playoff.
Oh, here we go.
Paint me that picture.
I don't know.
Paint it for me. All right, high school.
I'm a horrible painter, but I'll try.
High school football coming up this weekend. Playoffs start. Which bracket are you the most intrigued by? If you could pick out one team in the state of Oklahoma that you would bet your next paycheck on winning the state title, who would it be? And then we'll talk about the 4A bracket on its own as well. 225-9698 is the phone or the text line. That is 225-9698. If you're going to be outside the listening area, a couple ways to stay in touch with the show. Log on to kadsam.com or download the app. Paragon Communications app has it all. Radio, Penny News. Go pick up a brand new copy of the free Penny News wherever your local newsstand is. Just pick it up, check out the deals in the Penny News this week. We got Big Elk and Paragon TV. We'll be on the air Friday. Some football, some basketball, all kinds of different options coming up on Paragon and Big Elk TV through the winter months. And, of course, the Skinny on Sports podcast. If you missed the show entirely, you can go back and check out what we have to say, and you can find that podcast anywhere where you check out podcasts. By the way, on the text line from yesterday, didn't Skinny have Alabama national champions? Yes, I did. That looked like a horrible pick back on September the 10th. Looks like a better pick coming up right now.
Yeah.
How are you today, Jared?
I'm good.
I'm cold.
I'm cold too, man. I don't like cold weather. Not a fan of the cold weather. And I took advantage of my wife being out of town, and I drove.
Is she ever coming back?
Sunday. I'm counting down the hours now.
How many is it?
I don't know. I'm just
90
kidding.
something?
It's
110?
It's like get home. I drove her car. Her car has heated seats, heated steering wheel. You know what? Take in the car. Girls, get in the car.
You know, the things we do for our significant other. My car barely doesn't. I don't even know if the heater works. My wife's car has heated seats, heated steering wheel, cooled seats, cooled steering wheel. And then,
well, when we bought cool steering wheel, this car can drive itself. It's crazy. It has the lane assist.
oh yeah,
If you drift over, it'll pull you back a little bit. It has the, like if you're in cruise control on the interstate and you're coming up on somebody, it would automatically slow you down before you change lanes. Then when you change lanes, it'll sense like, okay, you're good to go, and it'll speed you back up to your set speed. Amazing. No, but I've been holding off driving it. I drove it on Sunday because I had to go over to Hobart, and then let's just drive it. And then today I stepped outside or opened up the garage door and thought, nah, girls, get in the car. Get in Mom's car. We're taking Mom's car today.
Did you feel like you were doing something wrong?
No, she told me before she left. She goes, drive the car. Drive it.
She allowed you to?
I think I'm the one who bought this car, so.
Yeah, but you don't really get to drive it very much, do you?
Not a lot. But that was, you mentioned earlier, that was I told her, like, you deserve a nice car. You're the one who are hauling kids around more than I am. I'm basically just meeting you at practice. I'm meeting you at games. I'm meeting you at tumble events or whatever. So she always takes them in the morning to school. She insists upon it. So that's why I told her, you deserve a nice car. But it was nice to drive it. But yeah, I do not like this cold weather. Came at the right time, having a bonfire tonight. Big Oaks are. I hope they're still having it. I hope it's not too windy for it.
Wind's blowing.
A little nervous about that.
North wind is blowing.
Yeah.
If it'll just rain like it's supposed to after lunch, that would help.
There is chances of rain today.
20% chance
That's right.
of a little shower coming up. The
You know how I know it's really windy? Is when there are a ton of leaves on my front lawn.
Yeah.
That's when I know, because they blew right off the tree.
It's
Can't even see my lawn right now.
Looking over your head out the window, there's still tons and tons of leaves on those trees, which I know it froze, but not enough. You know, there's always that one freeze where you get up in the next morning and your lawn is covered with leaves. They all fall off the tree at the same time.
Right.
And it's a good thing when that happens before the ice. Because remember a couple years ago when all the trees still had leaves on them, and then it came an ice storm, and the mess that created, because normally the leaves aren't on, everything was so much more heavy.
Yeah.
Because the leaves hadn't blown off the trees yet. That was a mess. I believe that was 2020. 2021.
I think you're right, yeah.
About 2020. Because I know I went to Mount St. Mary and did a early season basketball game, and I was the only person in the gym.
Yeah, they let you, because of COVID, you were the only.
Yeah.
That had to have been so weird.
It was a lot like Friday night, except for when you were asking Coach Maynard about that.
Yeah.
You know, the atmosphere and how we could literally, on our ride, I went back and listened to it, you could hear the John Marshall coaches yelling signals over our airwaves because nobody was making any noise.
That was a dull environment.
I'm telling you, it was like, I think I was going, hey, because I was afraid that people would hear me.
Right.
So the ball goes to the wing. Shots.
Man, I'm so glad we're past all that. I'm so glad we're past.
What a terrible call.
You can't. Yeah, exactly. You can't. You can't criticize. They can hear you.
That was not a foul.
They turn around, blow a whistle, look at you, give you the technical sign.
I mean, Ham might have got a tech that night because of me.
Oh yeah, those were not fun times doing that.
Speaking of cold weather, leaves blowing off the trees, and Chick-fil-A. It's on the text line.
I don't even know how that got started.
Sam's an evil character.
I guess so. That and my prejudice against the elderly for some reason. I don't even know how that got started. I don't even remember.
You hate old people.
I don't hate old people.
You're like what's his name? From Tin Cup. Don Johnson. You hate old people and dogs. What is his name?
Yeah, I know. I remember his great character. Yeah.
Roy McAvoy. And what's the other guy?
Forget. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, my
The
goodness.
text line's blown up.
Nobody knows the name.
It doesn't.
Don Johnson's character on Tin Cup. David Sims. I thought of it. Never mind.
That's it.
David Sims.
I mean, it's such a golf name, right? It sounds like a golf name.
It kind of does.
David Sims.
Or a terrible Texas quarterback. One of the two.
Yeah, yes.
All right, so what class, if I said, Jared, you can stay at home on a Friday night and have 4 screens up and watch every game of the whatever class playoffs, what class do you think is the most intriguing? Which one can you not wait to see?
I would but it's weird because, one, I would say 4A, but obviously because of our rooting interest. But I've said it since the bracket was unveiled that there are a lot of good teams that could beat other good teams on any given night. Road team, home team, doesn't matter. So that one kind of Tuttle Weatherford intrigues me. Clinton Bethany intrigues me. Blanchard Cash even kind of peaks up my interest. So Cushing Salisal, there's a lot of people who are leaning Salisal on that one. So there's that. But obviously because we're interested in that and what it means for us. But then there's a class where we would all say there's probably one pure favorite, there's one heavy favorite in it, but I think we could see some other games around that are really good, and I think that's 5A. I think Elgin and Piedmont could be a really good game. I think Guthrie and Lawton Mac could be a really good game. Midwest City, Bishop McGinnis. There are others around that. I mean, El Reno, I don't know. Do you give him a shot against Carl Albert with El Reno's offense? No. But point is, there's Carl Albert, what everyone feels like is the heavy favorite. But I think as far as entertainment value, with all the other games around it, could be really good. What about you?
I don't even think it's close. It's 5A. I don't even think it's close. There's some decent first-round games. Elgin, Piedmont, maybe. Here's the deal. Are we sure?
About Carl Albert or about Elgin?
Are we not sure that Elgin isn't just this awesome team? What have they done to make us not think they're awesome?
Yeah, they've been beating the doors off of everybody since they've gotten to 5A.
You know what's crazy? I saw this in the Oklahoman on Sunday. They won their district for the first time since 1986. Isn't that wild?
That's crazy. They had a lot of opportunities in 4A1.
I think 5A is going to be Friday night. That's the weakest part of 5A, and maybe the best part about what you said about 4A. Because I think you could make the argument, if you look around the state in the first round games, 4A's got every bit of 3 of the top 10, if not top 5, with some of the games that are possible. And as much as next week can be, Clinton Ada, that sounds great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. Weatherford Wagner, Tuttle Wagner. Then you look down, Del City Guthrie in the second round? What? That's a state title game.
Right.
In the second round. Carl Albert Coweta. Coweta beat them last year. I think there's going to be incredible drama. It's for the early round, for the first 2 rounds, maybe it's 4A. But when we get to the semifinals, I don't see how anything is going to be better than 5A.
Yeah, how about Bishop McGinnis and Bishop Kelly, possibilities of that?
Bishop Kelly's,
Didn't they play last year?
Bishop Kelly's beaten. Who did they beat this year? They beat somebody pretty good.
I don't know.
One of those, like, you looked up on Friday night and went, what? Who is Bishop Kelly?
They haven't been bad.
Of course, none of this matters if Carl Albert really just wrecks everybody. But I guess my point is, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not telling you somebody's going to beat them. But I don't know that it's going to be just the walkthrough. Yeah, it was McGinnis. Bishop Kelly already beat McGinnis this year.
They did play McGinnis. That's right.
Almost beat Podo's closest game, for sure, 24-21. And a loss.
Yeah, suddenly they're 8-2 after starting 0-2.
Is Guthrie or Piedmont? Question. Yes, Guthrie and Piedmont is on the other side of the bracket for Carl Albert. Honestly, if you look at the bracket in 5A, Carl Albert is by far on the easiest side. Because you've got them on one side, and you've got Elgin, Del City, and Guthrie on the other.
Very much so.
I mean, think of Del City and Guthrie, either or, if they make it to the finals, is going to have to beat one or the other in the second round. More than likely Elgin in the semifinals just to get to Carl Albert. That is a way harder side of the bracket. Way harder. That's just kind of the way it worked out, I guess. But, man. The 5A bracket is great. By the end of it, it's going to be great. Who's the biggest favorite in the whole state? Is it just Bixby and we move on? Outside, let's say you can't count Bixby.
Then Carl Albert.
You think so? Even though the teams in 5A are... Oof.
I do. I think if Carl Albert, let's just hypothetical here, if Carl Albert and Guthrie rematch on a neutral field at UCO, I think Carl Albert takes care of it easier than they did the first time over at Guthrie.
All right, so let's look at that Guthrie defense. They gave up 3 to Tuttle. They gave up 24 to Carl Albert. And they gave up 6 to Lawton Ike. That's it. 33 in 10 games.
It's pretty good.
And here's the deal. I don't think there's any chance they get to the finals.
I think Guthrie will get knocked out by
Del City.
Del City.
Elgin. I'm telling you. Elgin is good. Really good. Really, really, really good. It's wild. 5A is going to be fun. So you'd put Carl Albert after Bixby as the biggest favorite?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's look at 3A.
I would say that's where I was leaning.
So there's Heritage Hall.
Heritage Hall.
Who could challenge Heritage Hall? I mean, in 3A it's so private school heavy. So I go to the maybe Lincoln Christian.
It would have to be them.
Maybe.
I mean, they're hopefully on opposite sides of the bracket.
They are.
I'll be honest with you. I haven't looked at 3A bracket because we don't have anybody out here that's in 3A.
No, they are.
Maybe that's what we should do tomorrow. Is pick
state champs.
Pick your state title games and champs.
Could be fun. I think we've done that before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Heritage Hall.
Yeah, that might be an easier or a better answer because we've seen what Guthrie could possibly do in their defense. Then, of course, Del City and Elgin. Those are formidable opponents potentially for Carl Albert. Heritage Hall, I mean, who can slow them down? Maybe Lincoln Christian, and that's the best answer I can give. Maybe. Right?
Metro, I think that was the finals last year, and what was it, like 70-something to 50-something?
It was not. It was.
I listened to that game coming home from a basketball game at Carl Albert. And it was still going. That's what's crazy.
Well, you score that many points, there's a lot of
It
stoppage
was forever.
time.
Yeah. I mean, it was a long game. I think I would go Heritage Hall outside of Bixby.
Perkins Tryon's had a nice year. 9-1.
Their coach was on with Mark yesterday.
One lost is in overtime to Marlowe.
Mm-hmm. You know what their mascot is?
It's like a devil, isn't it? Isn't it?
Demons.
The Demons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the 4A bracket. I think there's a fair chance that the best games in the first round as a whole come out of 4A in the whole entirety of the state. Not just the ones here. You mentioned Cushing and Salisaw. There's really only like 2 duds in the whole bracket, to me.
Poto, Miami,
And then
Wagner, and Broken Bow.
Yeah. Outside of that.
You think Ulagog can give Ada some trouble?
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
I just don't know how good everybody is outside of a few teams. I know you've loved Poto. We've talked about Poto all year long. Do you like him enough to make them the favorite, or is it Wagner?
Oh, yeah. Man, I'm racking my brain as far as who's been challenged, who hasn't. Wagner's been challenged. What's Poto's closest game look like?
Got to be that Bishop Kelly game, 24-21.
That probably was it. And they haven't yeah, you're right. Metro Christian 24-7. They've scored 40 or more points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Whew. Defense not too bad. They've pitched 2 shutouts. One game was, a couple games with 7 points only. Not much. Okay. Man, I'm almost going to talk it into existence, but we'll do it tomorrow. I'm not going to show my hand just yet.
But I think you have to consider Wagner the favorite.
Wagner, I think, is considered the favorite. They are defending champs, and they're Wagner. Poto has won one. What was that? About 4 or 5 years ago?
19.
Yeah.
They beat Weatherford in the finals.
Right. So I was curious. There
was their only one, by the way.
I held my opinion of them being a favorite until I could see how they did against Ada.
They killed him.
And they killed him. Because I felt like that was the toughest game left on their schedule.
So here's the question. Is Poto Grove of 2 years ago, or are they really a contender? Because I think we could have sat here 2 years ago, the day before the Elks went on the road to Cushing, and the stats from that Grove team would have blown you away. A lot like this, a lot like the Poto team. And then you get up there and you go, what's this? This seems like the 3rd or 4th best of 4A1. I don't get the sense that that's what this Poto team is. I get the sense that they are very, very good. State championship good.
Oh, I do too.
But I still don't think I can make him the favorite. What's the record Friday night between 4A1 and 4A2?
Oh, you're putting me on a spot. The matchups here it just tells me there's a good. Do I have to tell you who wins and loses?
Well, Eventually. Maybe not today. Is it 2-2 or 3-1?
Man, there's a lot of people, including around here, that like Weatherford against Tuttle.
I'm one of them. The Oklahomans not. They've got it 31-14 Tuttle. I'm going to tell you right now. I would not be more surprised if my head was sewn to the carpet when I wake up on Saturday morning than if that's really what that score is. I don't see it.
Can Tuttle even score that many points?
Not without Weatherford's help.
I mean, Tuttle's offense hasn't exactly.
I think there's going to be 3.
They did score 49 against Bridge Creek, but it's Bridge Creek. They got 50 against Tecumseh. Come on. Of course, Newcastle, they got a couple touchdowns. Class and SAS, 23. I'm not sure about their offense being as potent
Oh, I'm sure it's not.
as it once was.
And they're good in the tough games. They scored 14 on Newcastle. They scored 6 against Blanchard. They did put up 30 against Bethany, and they actually did score against Guthrie, a 3 spot.
Yeah, they might be in for a little bit of an eye opener.
3-1, 2-2.
Weatherford coming to town.
Or you're not going to call a sweep, are you?
No.
For either.
Listen, I said, what did I say earlier this week? Blanchard is my dark horse in this whole race, so I'm not going to go against Blanchard. So let's say, man, and is there a giant question mark at Clinton? 2 weeks removed from Cash, losing that game.
No way.
They did what we all expect they do against Woodward.
I think it comes down to the middle.
They almost lost this game last year.
But Bethany ain't got Taylor Heim out there like they did last year.
That's true.
It comes down to the middle 2 games. Clinton's going to win. Blanchard's going to win. Then who wins the 2 in the middle? Is it a sweep in the middle, or is it a split in the middle?
Man, 3-4 weeks ago, everybody thought 4A1 was going to get swept in this thing. Not everybody. You were not.
Not happening. I'll say it's 3-1.
You're calling 3-1.
Yep. I didn't tell you who's going to win 3 and who's going to lose 1. I think it's 3-1 for the good guys.
I can't do it. I can't. I got it in my mind who's going to lose.
And who is it? Fire it out there.
They'll never let me back at home.
Oh, Clinton's not losing. Come on. You don't really believe that.
I don't know, man.
We're going to have to get out of here before you
I just don't know.
from your hometown.
I got to sleep on this and give you an answer.
Question on the text
line. And we're going to
break
break all this down. We're going to pick our champs and everything, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Question on the text line is this. Has Fairview been challenged? The answer, no.
Oh, no. Has anyone in 2A able to challenge
I don't know. It may not happen all year long.
Yeah.
I'm going to need a medic. I just popped myself in the eye trying to put my headphones back on.
Oh, boy, that's going to sum up your day.
That was a bad deal there. Welcome back, Skinny on Sports, 98.1 FM, the Sports Animal. College football this week. In Norman, there's a Big 12 title game elimination. The more intriguing one to me, though, is down in Orlando, Florida. Oklahoma State, who has been on fire, 5 in a row, have put themselves absolutely in the driver's seat to make it to Arlington and play for a Big 12 championship. Versus UCF, who finally got a win last week in the conference. But it feels like, to me, Jared, they are better than 1-5 in the Big 12. And can you possibly explain to me, when you see what Oklahoma State has done, what they did last week, and how they've just been rolling, why in the world is the line 2.5? Less than a field goal favorite for Oklahoma State. How is that possible?
I guess Vegas thinks that there is a Bedlam hangover effect. It's on the road. It's at what time?
2:30.
Well, that doesn't mean anything for me. And maybe they're just waiting. You mentioned the abysmal conference record for Central Florida, but they've been in close games. They've been in games late in the game. Maybe they feel like at home they will finally be in a game that they can win, that they'll finally pull out. I'm just throwing, but yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense with Ollie Gordon rolling. Do they know something we don't know? I mean, he was kind of dinged up in the Bedlam game, but still remained in and was effective. Is there something there that we don't know? I don't know. I mean, I think really the big thing is the Bedlam hangover. Because here it is Wednesday, Thursday, and I'm still seeing headlines about Bedlam. And I kind of like, do they realize they play on Saturday? Does anybody else, does the media know that they play on Saturday? Are they even talking about Central Florida? I'm sure they are. They being Gundy and preparing for them. But the luxury of when OU beat Texas was they had a bye week. And I thought it was a luxury. But I don't know. Maybe it's just all that what I just said. What do you think it is? Why would they be a very slim favorite? If it was in Stillwater, you think it'd be over a touchdown?
Around a touchdown maybe. I mean, seeing what it is there. I think here's the truth. I don't think Vegas has caught up with Oklahoma State.
Think they're fool's gold?
No, I think that they've won 4 of their last 5. They've won outright as an underdog. They were rightly underdogs against Kansas State, coming off the 2 losses. That made sense. But then from there, underdog against Kansas. The one that was baffling was going to West Virginia after they won those 2 games. Why in the world weren't they favored over West Virginia? And I get West Virginia had a pretty good record at the time, but then the one game they were a favorite was Cincinnati, and of course they won against OU last week as an underdog. I just don't think Vegas is caught up with the fact. I think Vegas is looking way, way more at South Alabama than they are at the 5 wins they've reeled off lately. There's still that question, I think, in the minds of whatever the guys setting the lines or the computers that they use to set whatever that is. That game is being weighed too heavily. And it looks ridiculous. I mean, at the time it looked ridiculous. But it looks even more like unexplainable now. How in the hell did South Alabama beat OSU 33-7? How did that happen? It doesn't make any sense.
Ollie Gordon got how many
South
touches?
Alabama is 4-5 in the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
4-5. That one, yeah. Ollie and Brennan Presley touched the ball 5 times.
That's a big part of it.
But even then, watching that game, it never. That's one of the most unexplainable losses that I can remember. And of course, after the game, South Alabama's really good. No, they're not. She just played horrible and got beat bad. And now all of a sudden you turn around and bam, there we go. And Oklahoma State's rolling. That's part of it. Is I think that game is so stuck in the minds of people that set the lines. They remember more elephants than even we are.
They're wondering when that team will return.
Yeah, is that team coming back? That horrific team. And everybody else is prisoner of the moment going, they just won the last Bedlam. They won 5 in a row. There's no way. And because this is the most concerning thing for OSU about this game, to me, is that line. How in the world, if you were sitting in Caesars on Saturday morning looking at the college football lines, how in the world would you get up out of your chair, walk to the ticket window, and put your hard-earned money on UCF, only getting 2.5 points? I don't know that you could. And a lot of times in that situation, we come back on Monday and go, how does Vegas do it? Boy, they knew. That's what concerns me more than anything about this game for OSU. It's just simply that line. Because if you look at those teams, I don't want to hear this crap about, the Sooner fans made excuses why they played bad against UCF because, John Rice Plumlee is back and this and got whatever. He played bad. Got lucky to win. It's becoming more obvious as we move on through the season. And it's funny about that bye week because at the time we all thought, what a perfect time to have a bye. I think at the end of the day it was the worst thing ever. And here's why I think it's a good thing OSU's playing this week. Because you have to flush it. You have to flush Bedlam.
Yeah.
As where the Sooners got 2 weeks, supposedly flushed Texas, but never did. Got a whole extra week to bask in the glory of taking down your rival. And I think that hurt more than it helped at the end of the day. It made sense why we all said that. You get a week to kind of regroup. And I don't think that's the way it was used. And so in that way, I think it is good that OSU's playing this week, and I think it's good that it's kind of a get-your-attention type opponent. Not a big, giant game, but a team that everyone thinks, well, if you mess around, UCF's good enough to beat you.
It's not a I don't know, it was bad in the Big 12.
It's not Houston.
It used to be Kansas, but you can't say that anymore. Yeah, it's not a Houston at home.
And I think going on the road is a good thing, too.
Absolutely.
All right, so this time every year, we see it all the time, where teams that are on the fringe of or in playoff contention lose a game that no one sees coming. Like, no one picks so-and-so to lose, and then all of a sudden you either wake up Sunday morning or watch late in the night Saturday, and you go, what? Who beat who? Is there a game like that in your mind this week? And if so, which game is it?
You say it can't be a ranked game, or it could be any game?
A ranked team, either in or on the fringe of playoff contention. So basically, one loss or undefeated teams. There's always those huge upsets where.
Right. I'm trying to think here. I got to look up the schedule. You have a couple in mind?
Trying to decide if I think this is the week.
If there's a team on the cusp of really solidifying themselves as a
being in the
team,
playoff,
being in the playoff,
being right there.
And
Like, okay, for instance,
lose.
Alabama at Kentucky would qualify. Florida State, Miami, Washington, Utah, which I don't know how much of I think that's the easiest one to say because we've seen Utah do it. I've got one.
What do you got?
TCU, Texas.
Man, it almost happened last week with Texas. But that one wouldn't have shocked me if Kansas State winning it. But the way they almost came back and won would have. Yeah, that's a good one.
I think TCU.
Is it in Austin?
No, it's in Fort Worth.
Ooh, see, now that's trouble.
And I think that TCU, if I read this earlier this week, TCU has the best passing offense in Big 12 games and also the best passing defense in Big 12 games.
Do they have their quarterback back?
Who's their quarterback?
TCU.
Okay, who's their quarterback?
The kid that was with OU.
Are they still letting Chandler Morris play?
I'm questioning. I'm asking. I haven't paid attention to TCU.
I don't know. I know he got hurt, and that was a good thing at one point.
Right.
Let's look. They just lost to Tech last week. That was that Thursday night game. Some guy named Jay Hoover.
So, no. 10.5-point favorite for Texas. Night game in Fort Worth. Yeah, that'd be one to go, whoa.
You know who I wanted to say?
Who's that?
USC beating Oregon.
I almost said that, but I can't.
I can't either.
I just can't. I can't put any stock in the USC. I don't care. Someone said it yesterday on these airwaves. firing Grinch might have been, I mean, clearly they think it's going to be a good thing, but does it actually change who takes over the defense and go, okay, this is what we've always needed to be doing? Does it solidify their defense enough where the offense can finally outscore the other offense? Does it make sense?
Yeah. I just don't
because
think USC isn't just going to lose every game.
No, not as much as they try, like at Cal and Arizona. But
by the way, Arizona's ranked. Did you know that?
Arizona's not bad. Going in before that game, there was people saying, hey, listen, this is not a bad Arizona team. They're better than what they always have been. I will but
they ain't beating Oregon. Oregon's going to run them over.
They're not beating Oregon. But would you also
I wouldn't be shocked, though.
If they – exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I wouldn't be shocked.
They still got Caleb Williams.
It is. They do.
But then I also go, okay, did he give up on the season when he went and cried to mama? Is his motivation gone? We won't see him in a bowl game when OU plays him in the Texas Bowl.
They may not even get there.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just that's where I kind of question. Is the motivation gone for
him?
For him personally. Like, whatever. I mean, we already got these. There's no point to this. There's no conference titles. I need to stay healthy. Is he going to take a hit, or is he going to run out of bounds?
You see what
I'm saying?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think this is the time because you're starting to – if you look at some of the draft stuff, there's starting for the first time ever.
There's questions.
Outside of Scott a couple weeks ago on a Friday where he – after that first loss. But there's actually people questioning things about it. This is a great time where he can shut those question marks down.
There might be the motivation because he's hearing there's people going, I wouldn't draft this guy. He's not strong in the head and da-da-da. He's mentally weak. Well, then he goes, man, I gotta get back into that unquestioned number one pick status. So
I mean, how mad do you think Caleb Williams was when he heard the stupid stuff that Lincoln Riley said about Alex Grinch and how Grinch's defense helped OU, and not that the defense was the strength of those. What? I mean, how mad do you think Caleb Williams is? Like to even show his own coach, hey, buddy, I'm the reason you're here. It ain't Grinch. It ain't defense. It's me being the man. Is there motivation of that?
It's a good one. That's very true.
Does SC have a chance to win the Pac-12? I have no idea what the tiebreakers are.
They have how many conference losses? They've lost.
They've got two,
two conference.
They could beat Oregon, which would give Oregon their second loss.
Yeah, and they would have the head-to-head against Oregon.
But then you got Arizona, which they beat. They don't play Oregon State, and they lost to Utah, which Utah could lose to Washington, and that would put them out of the I don't want the tiebreak. Good luck figuring that out.
I don't know.
But I think the answer is yes. If they win,
maybe a little help outside. Maybe
if they win in Oregon against Eugene, there's absolutely a route for them to play in the Pac-12 title game and win the Pac-12. There definitely is. Now, can I sit here and tell you what it is? No, I can tell you it starts with beating Oregon and ends with they have to win on Saturday. The question, I had this written down, and then we got to ask it on the text line. Is this a year where a two-loss team can get there?
They'd have to have a lot of outside help. And who's a team that's lost early? That I don't know, man. There's no precedent for this. I can't find an answer.
See, I could have.
My answer is no. I don't think this is a year that a two-loss team can get.
Not now. I could have built you a case sitting here a week ago for one team. And that one team got beat and now has 3 losses. And that team is LSU. I think I could have sat here a week ago and built you a case to get LSU in the playoff as a 2-loss team. But they didn't beat Alabama, and now they've got 3. So that's out the window. You know what I'm saying? It's gone. So, no, I don't think. There's too many teams that would have to lose twice, right? And there's not that, or it doesn't feel to me like, there's that screaming hot 2-loss team now that LSU isn't that can win all these games leading up to, and then you know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen this in the past with different teams. Couple losses early, then just got hot. And the Final Four is made, and it's on merit and this and that. But then there's also that, but gosh, are we sure this team isn't one of the best four? And that team just happens to have 2 losses, right? Mm-hmm. There's been teams like that in the past. I don't see that team. Who is it? Because like Ole Miss or Penn, no, they would have already had to have 2 losses is my point right now. Somebody that earns their second loss in the middle of November doesn't get back they don't get back in the hunt. This isn't 2007.
Correct.
It's just not. It's just not that. It's not setting up that way, because now you had to have been LSU. LSU was absolutely the answer to this question a week ago. Beat Alabama. Your losses are to, who did they lose to? Close to Ole Miss in a shootout, and Florida State. You got over those, and then you won like 6 or 8 in a row to get into the SEC title game and beat Georgia. That can't happen now. And there's really nobody else around the country that is that, right? I just don't see it.
Here's another question. If it seems like the way this playoff works, the earlier you lose a game, the better, because you're able to recover from it. But because there are this many undefeated teams now, could one of those teams still lose and go, we're fine?
We saw it last. I mean, the Big 12 champ, the regular season Big 12 champ, was able to absorb a loss and still make it.
Before that game was even over, people were saying, no, they're fine. They're still going to get in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Michigan there was 3 undefeateds last year going into championship weekend, right? Michigan, Georgia, and TCU. All 3 of them could have lost, and they were all getting in.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the way this year. 2-loss Big 12 team is not getting in.
No, they're not getting in.
There's no 2-loss Big 12 team is getting in.
Not even if it's a champ.
No.
It's not happening.
No. And, okay, so let's pretend like OSU's that team.
Or Pac-12, 2-loss Pac-12 champ. That can't happen. I don't see it happening.
USC has 3 total losses.
Yeah, they've eliminated themselves from a national title contention. We'll have to check about the conference.
Here's the thing. OSU is a team that is screaming hot.
Sure.
They set up to be sort of that team. But nobody that lost at home to South Alabama 33-7 is making it. You know, they set up as that team, actually, now that I think about it. OSU's 100% that team. In a different conference with a different loss. They could be it. But they're not going to be. No. There's not going to be 3 SEC teams. 1 at the most, in my opinion.
I think highly likely 2 Big Tens.
Unless they just have to quit playing football because they're all cheating each other.
Right, yeah.
Good grief.
Michigan double it down, man.
Is this just
they warned the Big Ten, you can't punish our coach.
Is this Michigan, the 8-year-old kid getting caught with his hand in the cookie jar
100%.
and then looking at his sisters and brothers and go, well, they had one too.
Hey, they did it last week.
Talking college football playoff scenarios, how can people get in, who can get in? And the question on the text line was, is this a year a 2-loss team can get in? Who? My question is, who is it? Who could be a 2-loss team that gets in? And I guess there is a scenario for Penn State. And I say Penn State only because they lose to Michigan this week. They have losses to Michigan and Ohio State. And with all the fighting about cheating back and forth, if they become unscathed in the chaos that is the Big Ten getting mad at teams and telling them they can't play in the championship game, maybe Seems pretty far-fetched, but that might be, in my mind, the only one that can make it with 2 losses. Maybe that's the answer to how you get a 2-loss team in this playoff this year. Because it's just hard to fathom when you look and there's 5 undefeateds still there. I mean, I think the chance that there's 4 undefeated teams left is infinitely higher than a 2-loss team making the playoff. Just with the way that the season is set up. It's interesting. It's great debate. And this is going to be the one part of the 12-teamer that goes away is the debate about who should be in. It kind of goes away with 12. But at the same time, it makes for a better product because a team like, for instance, this year, a team like Oklahoma State that has less than 0 chance of making it into the playoff with 4 teams, who knows what they could do in a 12-team playoff with the heater that they're on? Who knows? And that's one thing to be the cool part about the 12 is teams will be allowed to get better, which right now I don't know that that's the case. And case in point, even Alabama. Alabama at this point is number 8 with 1 loss that came back in the second week of the year. They can miss out on the playoff because they lost in week 2. Now it's hard to fathom that that's true, but they could. And that would never happen in 12 teams. And that's going to be the part that's a little bit more NCAA tournament-esque finally comes to football, in that teams are allowed some growth. Teams are going to be allowed some losses early and then get themselves back in contention to win the national title in football. Yeah, Texas-Alabama is going to be an amazing debate. If it comes down, if it were to come down to, let's say the Pac-12 has Oregon as the 1-loss champ, Florida State goes undefeated, Texas wins out and wins the Big 12. And then you've got Georgia and Alabama playing in the SEC. Bama wins. I don't know that immediately disqualifies Georgia in a lot of people's minds. And then let's say Ohio State, Michigan is a barn burner. I mean, an absolute barn burner. There's way, way crazy scenarios. I think there are 2 teams, because of resumes, that it's hard to say Michigan can't afford a loss. But I don't know that Michigan can afford a loss because their schedule is horrific outside of 2 games. And so if they lose to either, especially if they win this week and then lose to Ohio State, I don't know that they can bounce back because they don't have the conference title game. They're not going to get there. And have they been absolutely dominant? Yes. But if you had that 1 loss, you don't even get to play for your conference title, and you've got all the stuff swirling around, I don't know that Michigan can survive a loss. And I almost guarantee you Florida State can't. As well as they've done, man, it doesn't, especially if they're undefeated going into the ACC title game, say they lose to Louisville. I don't know that Florida State, I don't know the ACC is strong enough to be able to carry them. And I don't think the Big 12 is either, outside of the fact that Texas beat Bama. That's the one trump card in this entire scenario that Texas has over everybody, is the fact that they went to Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama, and that win looks infinitely better now than it even did when they won it. Think about the difference in the narrative around Alabama. Coming off that loss, then going and not even hardly scoring points against South Florida, to where the perception of Alabama is now and how much better that makes Texas look. I think of all the one-loss teams right now, because Texas has that win against Alabama, they are really in a good spot. Really good spot. All right, Penn State, USC. Well, USC's got 3 losses, so they could be a 3-loss Pac-12 champ, which might. Would that eliminate Washington? Could, I guess, and it would eliminate Oregon, so they'd be 2-loss. I think Oregon's going to beat Washington. That's the question. Who's going to beat Washington? I think Oregon's going to beat Washington. For me, if you want to just simply talk the eye test, I think Oregon is one of the top 4 teams in the country. And I actually agreed with a lot of what Dan Lanning did in that game, going for it on 4th down, outside of right before half and not kicking that field goal. But you can look at that game and go, man, Dan Lanning cost Oregon that game at Washington. I said yesterday, you have to rank Washington ahead of Oregon because they beat them. Kind of like you have to rank Texas ahead of Alabama because they beat them. But are we sure if those two games happened again that the other team wouldn't win? I'm not. I'm fully prepared for Oregon to beat Washington in the Pac-12 title game. But then that goes back to, is it eye test or is it results? And the results have to matter. And that's where Texas has the ultimate trump card in all of this. Even a Bama win in the SEC title game over Georgia, think about, does that disqualify the SEC? Because, okay, the one-loss SEC champ is Alabama. How do you take them in the playoff over a team that beat them in a one-loss Big 12 title? The winner is Texas. And in that scenario, Washington would have to be undefeated. The Big 10 champ have to be undefeated. Florida State have to be undefeated. And then you've got one-loss Georgia, who didn't win the SEC. One-loss Alabama that did win the SEC, yet lost to one-loss Big 12 champ Texas. Is that a scenario, the doomsday scenario in which the SEC doesn't get a team? It's hard to imagine. Dakota asks, is this the year Georgia, Alabama, or Clemson finally doesn't win the playoff? Obviously, Clemson's not a factor, he says. Maybe. Especially if what I just described happens and Georgia and Alabama don't get there. How wild would that be? In this last year of all these conferences that are all going away, how wild would it be if King Kong of conferences, the SEC, doesn't get a team in? I will believe it when I see it. And if you don't think that the playoff committee wouldn't have the reasoning ready that, yeah, Texas beat Alabama, but it was in week 2 and Alabama is now the better team, just look at the games. That speech is already written if it comes down to this. It's going to be fun. And here's what's probably going to happen. Georgia, Washington, Ohio State or Michigan, and Florida State all went out. And for the first time ever, there's no chaos. We don't even have a conversation because there's 4 undefeated teams. Man, would that be boring. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Everybody have a great Thursday. Be back tomorrow to wrap up the week. Get prepared for the high school football playoff. Skinny on Sports right here on The Sports Animal.
You've been listening to the Skinny on Sports podcast with Aaron Cow. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to get alerts of when the latest podcast is available. Thanks for listening.